Hey, good evening. It is Friday already. Wow, it's
Yes,
Friday evening, and we're here with
yes,
Therapist Tori. How you doing, Miss Tori?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Friday and I'm at home.
Sounds awesome. What kind of week did you have?
Let me think about it. I think it was pretty good. Things have been like on a very even keel for the last few months, so I can't complain.
I feel that. Cool. This week went by very fast.
Did it?
I still remember Tuesday, and poof, here it is Friday. But it
Yeah,
is what it
that's
is.
where you left off at
Yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah. I checked out on Tuesday, and then I decided to wake up on Friday.
That's the
All
best
right.
week ever.
So, real quickly, I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't already, definitely check out Blast Radio 247, uh, Miss Tori's podcast, as well as all the other podcasts get played through the radio station. So that's blastmusic247.com. The app is available for Android through the Google Play Store. Just type in Blast Radio 247, all one word, and you'll find the app. iOS to be continued. All righty. So, what is the word of the day for tonight?
We're going to be talking about codependency.
Codependency.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
something
So,
I'm sure everybody's been affected by at one point or another, you know.
indeed, indeed. Do us the favor and give us a definition of codependency.
Oh, but
Was that too much?
no, no. I'm going to give you my version of it. I don't think I
There you go.
looked up the real textbook version of codependency, but um, it is basically when your emotions, thoughts, and even feelings about yourself are contingent on another person and how they
Mhm.
feel.
Okay.
Uh, so, of course, this is when the lawn people decide to walk by my window. Um,
I was wondering what that was. I was checking my levels. Okay.
I'm hoping that they are finished very, very soon because it's loud. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, like when your feelings, your thoughts are contingent on another person or thing,
Hmm,
if that makes sense.
it does.
Hmm.
Okay. So, give us an example of someone who's codependent.
Uh, a good example of codependency would be um, my spouse um, woke up today very upset, angry, and I allowed that to affect how I feel about myself and my day all day
Hmm,
today.
um, Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I have gotten is a slew of questions, more or less
Okay.
in the aspect of codependency, and we'll just dissect them as they come.
Okay.
But does your sense of purpose involve making extreme sacrifices to satisfy your partner's need?
Okay. Um,
Guessing this aspect would be asking a codependent, or is it
yeah.
the?
You would be wondering like how a codependent person would answer
Mhm,
that question.
I believe so.
Okay. So the answer would be yes.
Hmm,
Um, but read the question one more time. I just want to
Sure
be
thing.
clear.
Does your sense of purpose involve making extreme sacrifices to satisfy your partner's needs?
Yeah, I think a codependent person would say that it is necessary to make those sacrifices
Hmm.
for friend, family, children.
Hmm.
Um, hello to whoever just popped up.
That's my man,
um,
True Bars.
huh?
That's my man, True Bars.
Oh,
He's
okay.
what up?
Um, yeah, so a codependent person would say, yes, it's necessary for me to make these sacrifices. Otherwise, now all this is subconscious, right? I'm not saying what literally what a person would be actually thinking. I think this
Mm.
is much more on a subconscious level to say, yeah, I have to make these sacrifices. Otherwise, I'm not acceptable or somebody's going to be upset. Um, so, yes, absolutely, sacrifices are necessary, uh, you know, in order to please other people.
Gotcha. Is it difficult to say no when your partner makes demands on your time and energy?
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of goes back to our show on boundaries.
Hmm.
Um, sometimes people don't feel like it's okay for them to have boundaries, even if they're married.
Mm.
Um, and a lot of people feel very conflicted and they're not sure what their boundaries should be in a
Hmm.
relationship or in a marriage relationship.
Right.
Even as it relates to work, I talk to a lot of people about work life balance, and sometimes people are unclear how to define that for themselves, like what's okay and what isn't okay. Like,
Hmm.
how do I actually find that balance? You know,
Okay.
um, so this isn't just pertaining to romantic relationships, but
Hmm.
it also pertains to all relationships in our life. Like, if we feel like we can't say no because somebody else has an expectation,
Hmm.
you know, then that's where we start venturing into the unhealthy zone, like, and honestly, I feel like in a lot of ways I've dealt with this in my life as well, like not feeling like it's okay to say no.
Mm.
And if I say no, then they're going to be upset
Right.
and they're going to think I'm a bad mom, or they're going to think I'm a bad wife. They're going to think I'm a bad friend. They're going to think I'm a bad coworker or employee if, you know, if I don't um if I don't do what they're asking me to do.
Right. To hear actually having boundaries in a marriage almost sounds sacrilegious.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
the what's hers is mine and what's mine is hers type of thing, but yet there still needs to be some respect, if you will.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that is deep. Okay. Do you cover your partner's problems with drug, alcohol, or the law?
Mm.
That's a serious one.
Yeah. That would be a yes too. And what we're talking about will help people kind of define, what it means to be unhealthy, what it means to be
Mhm.
codependent. Um, so, people find different ways to cope in a relationship or in life, period. People use alcohol as a way to cope. Um, so, drugs as well. And so I'm going back to the question, and I'm trying to, I guess, configure the question in my head.
Right.
So the question is saying, does this person use alcohol and drugs to do what?
Do you cover your partner's problems with drugs, alcohol, or the law? Instead of the root being dealt with, the way you cope is by either covering it with alcohol,
Okay.
drugs,
So
or the law.
that would mean that instead of me confronting
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I need to confront my own feelings and acknowledge that. So instead of me confronting it with myself and instead of me confronting it with my partner,
Mm-hmm.
I resort to smoking weed or drinking alcohol or finding some other way to distract or avoid the problem. So
Right.
yes, that would definitely be a sign of codependency, because
Gotcha.
essentially that would mean I don't feel capable or comfortable or both. I don't feel there's no sense of safety in order to address my issues within the relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing that, then I take an exit.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you constantly worry about others' opinions of you?
Codependent people do all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time, you know. Um, and that's the thing. I think, sometimes people worry more about these external messages that they get from their environment or they get from other people that are significant to them. They worry more, or that's more impacting than what I'm saying to myself about me.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the way that I feel about myself is really contingent on what I think other people feel about me.
Right. Got it.
Does that make
All right.
sense?
It does. It does. Let's see here. Do you feel trapped in your relationship?
Yeah.
The codependent or the
Enabler?
enabler? Mm-hmm.
Both feel trapped, because who you are defines who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Some people lose meaning in life if they're not connected to someone else, meaning if I'm not taking care of you, if I'm not doing things for you, then I feel like meaning in my life is affected. Like there's less meaning because essentially I've wrapped myself around that role in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so without that role or without that obligation or without that responsibility, now I'm questioning, or I feel like there's a lack of identity for me. So it's just like, an example of that would be just like parents, like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm an empty nester. And so, I definitely went through this process of, okay, what the hell do I do now? Like I'm not raising kids anymore. So,
Right.
and I'm not saying that's the only role that I have fulfilled in my life, but it's like, okay, what do I do? What does my life mean now that I'm not raising children, you know?
Right.
And so, and granted, like all of us kind of go through these periods and iterations in life where it's time for us to redefine ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm just using that as an example to say that that would be one of those things that could potentially throw someone into, for lack of a better word, a crisis state, because they don't know what to do with themselves at that point,
Mm-hmm.
So it happens like with empty nesting, it happens with retirement, because there have been things in our life that we have, incorporated as a part of our identity. And when that's no longer the case, then, then it kind of, it can, kind of throw you into this crisis state. And so at that point, you may realize that, oh, well, my relationship does have some elements of codependency. Like I have been dependent upon this person, or I have been dependent upon this role. And so, yeah, now what exactly does that mean for me?
Gotcha. Do you keep quiet to avoid arguments?
Oh yeah, you better believe it. Yeah, because now I will say, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that will say, and I would tell you the same thing. I don't like conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more okay at this point in my life because I understand it, and I understand that conflict is not a bad thing, and it doesn't mean anything bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if there's a fear of conflict, I'm gonna do whatever is in my power to avoid it. Because I mean, and this can, also be contingent on somebody experiencing like trauma in their background or childhood, or, historically in relationships. Like, if I have experienced that, or I saw my family dynamic, anytime that there was conflict, somebody got hurt, or there, maybe there was a loss of a relationship or loss of life. And so when we make that connection, we can kind of carry that into our adult life and avoid conflict at all costs,
Right.
because we've made this connection with loss.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think I totally identify with that, because confrontation was definitely difficult for me until I started forcing myself to walk into conflict without fear. But most of all, walk into it with tact, because you're not trying to anger the person or whatever, and try to have a general understanding and compassion so that you can, okay, I got a problem, let's work this out together type of mentality. And so far, confrontation can build bridges if you go beyond that fear. For myself, I could say that. So my little 2 cents. Let's see here. How are you personally confronting your problems? And it's a 2-part question. Do you blame others for them? How are you personally confronting your problems? And do you blame others for them?
Yeah. So when people go back and listen to this, you're like, so how do you know you're codependent? This is how you know. And I'm definitely not trying to get anybody to label themselves as anything.
Right.
You know, this is just, being able to recognize certain things and recognize certain signs and recognize certain dynamics and or patterns in your life where codependency may exist. But go back to your question. Read the question one more time.
Sure. How are you personally confronting your problems? And do you blame others for them?
Yeah, I think with codependency, there would definitely be blame, guilt, and shame involved. I think insecurity makes it very difficult to accept responsibility. Responsibility and acknowledgement is a whole lot different than blame. And for some folks, including myself, like in my own growth and development process, a lot of times I think I felt criticized, and my experience in talking with people about some of these things is that nobody wants to feel like they're to blame. Nobody wants to be responsible for something bad happening or for making somebody feel bad. Right. So, chances are you might shift the blame and say, oh, it was this other person, or, oh, it was this other situation and I had no control over it. I couldn't do anything about it.
Okay.
So don't blame me. But that's not really taking responsibility. When we're in a place of security, then I can say to you, you know what? I'm sorry for how I made you feel. Or not even how I made you feel, but I'm sorry that you're feeling the way that you feel. And if there's something that I can do or say that will alleviate that feeling, then I'm willing to do that. Now, a lot of times in my work with couples, a lot of blame, playing the blame game comes into the picture, and people trying to figure out, well, who's really responsible for us being in this bad place, or, and it's like, I try to get people to understand that's not important to figure out. It's not, what difference does it make who's to blame? The point is we're here now.
Right.
And, what can we do now to address this? Because some people just, want to point the finger and and do all that. But it's like, well, but how does that bring us to a place of resolution? So if we're both willing to take responsibility for where we are and what changes do we need to make, what things do I need to be aware of that affect you, and you be aware of what affects me, and we're working together in this process, then there is no room for guilt, shame, or blame. There's no room for that.
Facts. Okay. Do you feel entitled or owed the help your partner offers?
Yeah, I think a codependent person would feel entitled, Now, there's always a place where both parties can acknowledge the dynamic that has been established in their relationship. Like, for instance, If I don't know, I'm gonna make something up. If for our entire relationship, you come in the door and you immediately start venting, or going into telling me about your day, and and then you ask me for what the solution, and I'm always I always do that. I always make myself, regardless of how I feel, I always make myself available to do that, to do that with you.
Right.
But really inside, I'm irritated. I feel disregarded. Yeah, because you don't ask me about my day. And because once we finish once you finish getting what you think you need, you off in another room and you doing your thing. Now, if for years I have let that go and I didn't say nothing and I didn't address it, right, and now I'm pissed off about it. You know how people wait, it just piles up, and then I explode.
Yep.
Well, to some of that, I gotta take responsibility for that, because right, I have to take responsibility for the fact that I never said anything. I never communicated that it was a problem. I just kept doing it. And the other person is sitting there like, what the hell just happened? I don't even know who you are right now.
I just showed up.
Yeah, I mean, so they're completely taken off guard. Like, what the hell, So it's like, yeah, eventually you want to be able to respond to whatever is causing the upset, but on the on the flip side of that coin, I have to take responsibility for the fact that I never said anything to you. I never communicated what was going on for me. I never let you know how I feel. I didn't say nothing.
Right.
So now, granted, I will say sometimes people are in relationships where the other person is non-empathic and they don't give a crap.
Right.
They may not really care about how you feel. And that's a whole nother thing. So. Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic for another day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, Therapist Tori, I'm going to go ahead and play our Blast Stars of the week.
Okay.
This week we have my man Chris White, and the name of this song is Every Day. Let's check it out.
All right.
Age 15. The Ferguson verdict got a lot of my white friends uptight, like they stayed up late watching Roots last night. I'm like, chill, man, I can't blame y'all for one flawed individual who made a bad call. I'd be just as guilty as them if I stereotype. Straight up, if you ain't black, you can't carry my plight. I don't expect that. Sympathy or empathy just filling me and giving me my space, I can respect that. When children get murdered who look just like me, then the killers go free consistently, we gotta check that. Shooting, robbing, and looting is not the movement or solution. Tearing down our own community, truly it's just a setback. But I can't just sit back and say nothing while my people struggle. God anointed me to protect that within my spirit influence. There are some pains you just can't explain unless you've been through it. Sensitive to the offensiveness relative to Ferguson. Familiar, I can relate cause I'm kin to it. That's why I keep it real, no pretend music. Politically incorrect, thick skin music. So believe me when I tell you that I know how you feel when vengeance is the Lord's, but you still want revenge. Like put me in the ring with that cow with no gun. Hands up, Shawn Michaels, I got him. Sweet chin music. With my everyday, yeah, yeah. them abs, just leaving the lab. It's raining cats and dogs, so umbrella I grab. My man Owen bought me Burger King and cover the tab. Back to Patterson, I hop in the cab. We rolling out. Then out of nowhere, cop cars and the blue lights flash. I'm like, somebody must have done something bad. Then they pull the cab over, so it's getting realer. I'm like, this driver must be some type of drug dealer. Then they get me out the car and they search me. Illegally, I might add, it really irked me. Trying to get a reaction, speaking harshly. It's like 10 of them jokers would've murked me. With my hands on the hood, I just looked in their eyes like, why this man got his hands in my fries? I didn't do nothing, temperature rising like Mob Deep. But I thank God for building me with that cool button. Now maybe you've never experienced that. Like we don't cause trouble, we don't bother nobody, we're just black. That happened years ago, but it's sad to say, cause still this type of stuff happens every day, okay? But hey, hey. My everyday, with my everyday, with my everyday, yeah,
I just wanna give you the highest
yeah, I wanna give you the highest praise.
my everyday living.
Will they reminisce over you? Will they reminisce over you, my God? Will they reminisce over you? I wonder, will they reminisce over you? Will they reminisce over you? Will they reminisce over you, my God? Will they reminisce over you? I wonder, will they reminisce over you?
I just wanna put a smile on your face.
With my everyday, with my everyday, with my everyday, yeah. Come on, yeah.
Give you the highest praise.
I wanna give you the highest praise.
My everyday living.
Now let me see that smile, baby boy, let me see that smile. Now let me see that smile, baby girl, let me see that smile. Let me see that smile, grandpa, let me see that smile. Yeah, let me see that smile, grandma, let me see that smile.
Yes, indeed. And that is Chris White with Everyday.
I like
love
that
that song.
song.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Love a good, positive song. And if you would like to be a blast artist as well as Chris, you can go to blastmusic247.com, register as an artist, and be a part of the family. That is blastmusic247.com, changing the industry one artist at a time. Oh my. Okay. Just so you guys know, you can also reach Therapist Tori on that website. I'll leave it up for you if in case you would ever like to get some one-on-one. Definitely reach out to her there. Okay, let's continue on. We doing good so far, Miss Tori?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Let's see here. If you have an addiction or a self-destructive problem, how are you denying it to yourself or others? There's multiple questions within that one, but I'll just break them down. If you have an addiction or a self-destructive problem, how are you denying it to yourself or others?
I do have a shoe addiction.
So I know.
But it's not one I'm willing to part with.
You holding on to that. I got you.
I think I'm gonna keep that one. I'm kidding. Well, I think there are a lot of situations, you've heard the phrase, the elephant in the room,
Yep.
and people have like situations within their relationship or within their family, and certain topics are off limits, right? Like there's not a place of safety where you feel like I can actually address this, or I can actually talk about this. And I think there are a lot of relationships like that where there's really not a lot of freedom or flexibility to talk about things or issues that may be bothering you as an individual. And I think, even though it may not be violent or, like there's no outward abusive type situations, it can still be toxic because unintentionally, because there is no freedom to really talk about or address things that are really bothering you, or it may be one of those situations where every time you try to address something, you get over talked. There's like this instant anger and hostility. If you're expressing something that's different than what the other person thinks. But I think one of the things that we forget at times, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, like one of the reasons that I got with you, or one of the reasons that I was attracted to you, is because you're different than me. I didn't get with you because we're exactly alike. I mean, there may be a lot of things that we share in terms of values or principles, but we're different people, and that's valuable in and of itself. Like, it's nothing wrong with us being different. It's nothing wrong with us having a different perspective. The problem is sometimes we have a hard time appreciating and honoring something that is different than what we think or feel.
That is true.
So.
Gotcha. Do you not even see it as an issue, the addiction or destructive problem? Do you not even see it as an issue?
I think if there's codependency and there's not a willingness to change that, no, they don't see it. You don't see it as an issue. I mean, some people can know that something is a problem and not really want to change it. In particular, like when we deal with issues like having a power struggle, right? I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's do, parent and child. So for instance, a parent may have an adult child that has a drug addiction problem. And so, and every time that adult child falls, the adult parent is always there to pick them up. I'm always bailing you out. I'm always giving you money. I'm always providing a place for you to stay. It's like, that's so the power struggle would be like, I know, like as an adult child, I know I can get my way. I know every single time I fall, you're going to be there to pick me up. And I've seen so many situations where adult children are so disrespectful to their parent who is taking care of and the truth is they don't have any respect for them.
Wow.
Because and one of the reasons is because there is no boundary. There is no expectation of respect. So what I'm saying is, like, the adult child may not want to change that. They don't want, because what's happening, I'm getting what I want. Even though I might even know that this isn't healthy. I might even know that I'm not treating people in my life with the utmost respect. I might know that, but because I'm continually getting what I want out of the situation, then I continue in my behavior.
Right.
Nobody's stopping me. And I'm not saying it's somebody else's responsibility to stop them, but the unhealthy part of that is that there's no boundaries. You know, I'm doing what I'm getting results in a very negative way.
Mm. Would you say that'd be the lack of child rearing?
No, not necessarily. I mean, maybe in some ways, you know, I just, you know, I, you know, we're Generation Xers, and so my parents are baby boomers, and you know, it was basically you disrespect me, you gonna get the hell knocked out of you. You know,
Facts.
you know.
I don't care who you
And
are.
so, but you know what we see now is a lot different. You know,
Yeah.
like I've seen situations where people just give, and they let their kids just run over them. And so in my mind, it's like that is unfathomable. Like I would never do that because I know I would be picking myself up off the ground, you know?
Mhm. Right.
Like there are certain boundaries I would never cross with my parents because they are my parents,
Mhm.
you know? So but I think in today's time, people raise their kids a lot differently. And honestly, I raised my kids differently too.
Right.
You know, of course, being a counselor, they're like, oh, here she comes. We're going to have to listen to a lecture now, you know? Oh, God, you know? And I would even tell them, aren't y'all tired of me talking? Because I'm tired of me talking. Y'all should be tired of me talking, you know? So, you know, I definitely think I raised my kids a little bit differently than the way
Mhm.
my parents raised me. But
Mm.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, you know, try to categorize it as good or bad parenting. But, you know, I mean, I'm sure that factors in from time to time, but you know, it's nothing wrong with communication. I mean, I think communication is best, and when it comes to child rearing, definitely talking to your kids is probably the first rule of thumb rather than any other type of punishment.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, boundaries are still important, you know, and even my kids know now, like, you know, you need to approach me in a certain way, you know?
Right. Understood. I agree with you that respect for the elderly has definitely gone out the window with this generation. That is a
Mhm.
passing fad, so it seems. Do you know how to give? If not, what work do you need to do to learn? That is a weird way of putting it. Basically, if you don't know how to give, what do you need to do in order to learn?
Well, I don't know. I think the best rule of thumb when it comes to that, how do I treat myself? You know, because I think so many times we forget that there is a me. There's a me. I'm with me all the time. And how do I treat me? You know, and you know, and I'm not talking about like from a narcissistic, you know, point of view or, you know, being self-centered, but if I'm treating me good, then I'm going to treat those around me good too. You know, I mean, we are not at our best when we neglect ourselves.
That is
You
true.
know, I cannot give to you the way I could if I'm not taking care of myself. You know, and sometimes people forget that, like, if you just pause and you take a moment and you really, you know, reflect on what you need and give yourself that, then you have more time and energy to give to others. So giving starts with us, I think, you know. I mean, I definitely feel like I'm a giver. You know, I like to give, and I like to in many different ways, you know, because I like how it feels to see somebody else receive,
Right.
you know.
I agree.
And whether that's receiving affection, whether that's receiving gifts, whether that's receiving affirmation, you know, like I like to give that. But at the same time, there's this reciprocal process that I cannot forget about, you know, and it is an expectation when it comes to relationships. If you and I are friends, then there's a constant giving and receiving all the time.
Right.
And if either one of us feel like that's lacking, then, you know, potentially we're gonna feel some type of way about our friendship. You know, and then it would then be our responsibility to say, hey, Troy, let me holler at you.
Right.
Or hey, Tori, need to talk to you. You know, because neither one of us can read minds, you
Yep.
know.
True that.
So
I got you. You may have answered this earlier, but it was, how did you become afraid of conflicts?
well, to be honest with you, it was experiences with my family. You know, there were definitely some traumatic situations in terms of, you know, domestic violence that I dealt with as a child. And so I think that in a lot of ways that became deeply embedded within me. And, you know, so going into my teen and adult life, I just tried to avoid conflict at all costs. You know, I just didn't want to deal with it, you know. And I think sometimes I shut down. Sometimes I just didn't say anything, or I avoided things, or, you know, found a way to be distracted. You know, for a lot of people, is being work. That's all they do is work.
Right.
I don't do nothing else. You know, and so, you know, and I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but sometimes we will find ways to avoid conflict or confrontation, or, you know. And so I had to learn that conflict isn't always a bad thing.
Right. Me too. I
That
had to learn that.
yeah, that sometimes it really can produce good things in your life. You know, it's healthy. You know, we need healthy confrontation.
Right.
You know, confrontation is not always, you know, I'm gonna cuss you out, or, you know, like, you know, flipping people off, and, you know, like, you know, that's not healthy confrontation. Healthy confrontation is, you know, someone being able to accurately, not accurately, but, you know, like, share, be vulnerable, share, and let somebody know what's going on. You know, now I do realize that, you know, we're kind of saying certain things in a vacuum, you know, and I realize that, you know, people may be in relationships where, well, yeah, I tried that, but it didn't work. You know, I mean, so, you know, you can practice effective communication on one side, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be reciprocated on the other side. Right. And so I think with that, you have to make some decisions about, is this something that I can live with, or is this something that I need to actively change and address, you know? So.
Cool. Okay. What has caused you to be uncomfortable with receiving?
Ooh. Well, it goes back to that relationship that you have with yourself. If I don't feel worthy, if I don't feel adequate, if if there's, if my value system with myself isn't good, then I'm not gonna feel good receiving, because I feel like I don't deserve it.
Hmm.
But when you know, not think, when you know what you deserve, then you're more open to receive it. You're not having, issues with your self-esteem. You know
Right.
that you're worthy of receiving all the good things that are coming into your life.
All right. Let's see here. When did you begin to find your self-esteem in being a giver?
Finding self-esteem and being a giver. I don't know. I guess, go back to what I've been saying, which is learning to appreciate me. I've been listening to Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. And, when you see yourself as a valuable person and you see yourself as you really are, you're not, labeling, you're not labeling yourself as something negative, or, I can't even think of all the negative things that you can say to yourself. But
Right.
when I'm okay with giving to me, I'm going to be more than okay with giving to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And even if somebody comes and says, hey, I need something different, or I felt some type of way about something that you did or said, that shouldn't destroy me.
Correct.
Now, granted, it might be tough to hear,
Yeah.
but it's not going to destroy me. And it allows both of us to kind of regroup and say, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that. You just told me something that I didn't know. And now that I know that, I can make the adjustment, and now that's something that I can be intentional about, or something that I can be conscious of, and if I know that it's an area of weakness for me, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna try.
Right.
I'm gonna try to do that. I might make some more blunders with it, but I'm definitely gonna try.
Mm-hmm.
I can promise you I'll try.
Fair enough.
So
let's see here. Does your partner's problem tend to make you feel superior to him or her?
it can, yes. Especially when we kind of, we talked a little bit about the power struggle, and sometimes there are dynamics in relationships that we don't want to change because we feel like it's serving us. Another example of that would be, like, say you're married to somebody that's an alcoholic, like, and they spend 90% of their time being drunk.
Wow.
And you get used to that. You take care of the household, you take care of the bills. Like, in essence, it puts you in a position of power because you're controlling everything, because this person is out of it most of the time. Right. Now, with that, if that person decides, you know what, I'm gonna stop this, I'm gonna stop drinking, and now I want to be an active partner in this relationship, right. And the other person's like, you want to do what? I've been doing this for 20 years. What do you mean you want to be an active partner?
Boy.
You ain't been an active partner for 20 years. I've been doing everything, and I'm good with doing everything.
Huh.
That just So now that presents a problem, right? Because I've been in a position of power. No,
Mhm.
it's not good that you've been an alcoholic, but it allowed me to be in control of everything else.
Hmm. Wow. Last one for the night. What
Okay.
is keeping you in the relationship? Are you afraid of leaving, and why?
Yeah, because I am afraid of leaving because this has always been my norm.
Hmm.
You know, you've heard the phrase, I'd rather deal with the devil I know than the one I don't know,
Hmm.
you know, which means even though I know this isn't healthy,
Right.
it's what I know. It's what I'm used to. I know what to expect day in and day out.
Hmm.
And me stepping outside of that makes me fearful. I'm afraid of, even though life could be better, I
Hmm.
don't know that. I don't know that life,
Wow.
you know? So that's how but see, all if we remember, all of that is it's a mental game. This is where the prison is.
Right.
It's not our physical environment. It's where we are mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
Hmm.
So, but the good news with that is it doesn't have to stay that way. It can change. You know, people are always so, including me, and I'm not, when I say people, I'm including myself. Like, we can be so afraid of change because we don't know the unknown. And
Right.
it's like, you're right. You don't know it.
Right.
So, but instead of being afraid of it, we can be excited about it
Yeah.
because we don't have to automatically assume that it's going to be bad. You know,
Very
so many times I've heard people say, I assume the worst, so I'm not disappointed. And I'm like,
true.
what? Can we try to flip that around? Can we, like, let's change that up a little bit. How about expect the best?
Right.
Because the best is yet to come. We
Indeed.
haven't, I don't, you know, I'm at such a good and great place in my life. I mean, this is great, but but every time I feel this greatness, I'm still saying the best is yet to come.
Right.
Maybe I haven't even lived my best life yet. This is great, but maybe the best is still coming.
Hmm.
And as long as I believe that, I'm going to continue to manifest that, you
That's what I'm
know.
talking about.
I mean, so many things are really contingent on our belief system. It's contingent on what we think is possible. And I ask clients all the time, for what you say you want, do you think it's possible?
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I think so. Great. Because if you think it's possible, it is possible. It is doable. And it can happen. And it will happen. And it is happening right now.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed. Well, thank you for handling all those Spitfire questions. That
no,
was
thank
awesome.
you. That was good. I
That was good.
appreciate that.
That was good. Um, Again, if you would like to speak with Therapist Tori, her website is right there on the bottom. That's vdorseytherapy.com. V as in Victor, Dorsey therapy.com. Go ahead and check her out, and she'll be glad to help you. Anything you'd like to say before we head out?
No, just thank you. Those are some great questions. Hey, sis. No, those were some great questions, Troy. I really appreciate it. You're
No
awesome.
problem. Thank you.
Good show. Good show. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well,
And just want to tell everybody, have a fabulous weekend.
indeed. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Please be safe and see us here next Friday on Living the Abundant Life. Have a good night.
Good night.